Thanks for tuning into another MPH video, Motoe Performance and Health, with Coach Robb Beams. Coach, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk today about blood work and why that's important, and sort of aside from the things we learn regarding different deficiencies,
Sure.
Also how that plays into food allergies
Yeah.
and how big that is. I've had both of these done. I had a very comprehensive panel done maybe 10 years ago, and I found out I had this weird industrial solvent called xylene in my blood. And they were really concerned about it. We were trying to figure out where it came from. I was thinking like a solvent tank or contact cleaner or something like that. Turns out it was Glade plugins that we have all over our house. It's a very sweet, aromatic industrial solvent, and so it's used in a lot of things like that.
I'll be damned.
So we pulled all that out. They said, yeah, if it's in your blood, it's in your
Everybody's
kids and your wife and your dogs and everything else. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff that comes out of this.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on blood work?
Well, blood work's pretty amazing because if you look at the cell as the foundation of life, cells make up tissue makes up an organ, series of organs make up a system. Yeah, I mean, when your blood's out of line, what's always fascinating to me when you look at our mantra is health, wellness, then performance. If you're constantly deficient on vitamin D, you're constantly deficient on, go even an electrolyte route. You're always low on potassium or whatever it may be. What better indicator that you need to change something?
Right.
If it's out of range, like you were saying, if it's something that becomes toxic, what would be the catalyst for that? What's its source? When we look at blood ranges from a health and a wellness standpoint, and we can kind of go down a bunny trail about what is a blood panel really telling you. If you do some research, you'll realize that a blood panel is not actually a snapshot of health. It's the absence of disease. A lot of people don't realize that. So when we say we're in range, what is that really in range of? And take it a step further. Take someone like yourself where fitness has been a part of your life, your entire life, and you're getting run through the same evaluation criteria as in range or out of range. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Not as a soapbox, but just from a general principle standpoint. So when you look at the health of the cell is going to be in some range. I always look at it, if you're out of range, what would be the catalyst for that? You're burning it too fast. Maybe you're not eating enough of something that has a vitamin D or a B vitamin in it, or maybe you're not absorbing what you're eating. So to me, in an ideal world, I would like everybody to have their blood work done once a quarter. I know that's not always fun. I hate needles myself, but if you can get through the logistics of it, because if I'm only working on a 12-week window, I personally know what your volume of training is from an intensity standpoint. I know what you've done from a duration standpoint and from a frequency. Those are the three variables that I look at. How often are you working out? How long and how hard? Well, I can look at what you've put the body through, supplement that with your sleep log, supplement that with your food log, and then I get blood work. I've got a snapshot.
Yeah.
What's working, what's not working, where do we need to adjust? So if you're out of range on a micronutrient or even a macronutrient for that matter, I can look at your nutrition. Maybe we need to eat more of it. If you've got enough coming in and you're still out of range, maybe it's an absorption issue. And then we're back to the third variable. You're just burning it up quicker than you can get it in. When you look at, just as a general rule of thumb, for the listeners, take your body weight and add a 0 to it. Just use that as a basis number on how many calories you need to take in on a daily basis. So when we look at all of those, take that quantity of numbers. So if I weigh 150 pounds, that's 1,500. If I divide that by 75, that's how many calories are in an extra large egg. How many eggs do you need to eat on a daily basis to meet that 1,500 calories? And I only use that for math and illustration purposes because I don't know about you, but I eat a 3-egg omelet. I feel stuffed.
Yeah.
So when you look at food quality, it's nutrient dense, but it's calorically anemic. And you got to try to bridge 1,500, and that's just to sustain life. That's not what you're burning in the form of exercise. That's what's great about these Garmins. They'll give you your calorie burn rate. Well, if I know what your average heart rate and your max heart rate is for that duration, I know what your calorie burn rate is. What are you doing to replenish it?
Gotcha.
Those blood ranges are incredibly helpful because if you're out of range, maybe you need to eat more. But if you have to eat 37 eggs in a day to break even, it's hard to get that volume met and that could cause you to be out of range as well.
Well, the farts from that kind of situation are just unimaginable too. That's a lot of eggs. So there's a few other things I really love about blood work. One, if you have something genuinely wrong with you, some
Sure.
type of pathophysiology, it'll alert you of that.
Yep.
And I think for everybody that's important, right? I mean, we catch a cancer early or a something else,
100%.
we can usually get, if we catch it early enough, we can
Get in front of it.
correct it,
That's
right?
right.
But it's when somebody doesn't go to the doctor for years and years.
Sure.
They go, oh yeah, that's been hurting for a while now. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, you're stage 4 cancer. Nothing we can do.
No.
Also, the food allergy side of it. I think that's another, it kind of ties along into blood work. I also found out through this extensive panel I did, which was through Red Bull, ironically enough, that I had a mild allergy to eggs. Maybe it was just the yolk.
Okay.
And then a pretty legit allergy to milk, among a couple other little things. But I had never had any kind of reaction to
Sure.
those. But they said, yeah, your body is having an inflammatory response to those foods, particularly the milk. And they said, I do not recommend you drinking milk.
Right.
The eggs was like, it was low enough. He goes, the upside's probably outweighing the downside. But I had no idea. You know,
Sure.
I mean, not that I drank a ton of milk anyway, but I was like, wow, okay, I'm off milk,
Well, and you bring up two very, very important variables. Number one, there's a difference between being sensitive to something and being allergic to something. I've never talked to anybody who decided to go gluten-free that didn't say they felt better. I understand that. But there's also nutritional value to what's in grains and stuff.
Sure.
My point is, unless you've been diagnosed with celiac disease, you get raging diarrhea, GI distress, you don't have you're not allergic to it. You don't have a disease. You may have a sensitivity to it. And that's where I think it gets a little bit, especially, when you look at Google and you look at, everybody becomes an expert. Everybody wants, not everybody, but certain people will go and try to promote an agenda, follow the money. There's usually an agenda behind it. But I'll give you a perfect example because you brought up milk. I have a client who can eat yogurt, no problems whatsoever, has a glass of milk, huge adverse reaction to it. So does that mean he's lactose intolerant? Because that's what he got labeled by a registered dietitian. No disrespect to registered dietitians, but to me, when you can eat yogurt that has lactose and you can drink milk and has lactose and have different reactions, that means you have a sensitivity to milk that you don't have to yogurt because they both have lactose in
Well,
it.
there's got to be something. Is there casein protein in the milk that's not in the yogurt or something like that?
But to say we're not going to have these products because it's an entire category,
Right.
that's where food logs come in my opinion, because you could have maybe not drank milk for a while, all of a sudden have a glass of it. Just for the listeners, I suggest that you weigh yourself every morning and every night. You should always be 3 to 5 pounds heavier at night because if you're drinking water and you're properly hydrated, you're snacking on fruits and vegetables, we're high in water, you should always be heavier. Why is that? Because you notice in the morning you're always 3 to 5 pounds lighter. Well, you didn't work out all night long. Breathing, bodily functions, you lose weight, right? You lose water weight. So you always want to be heavier at the end of the day than you are in the morning. But look at your Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday. If you've had an inflammatory response, because you got to know, is the inflammatory response because you rode or because of something you ate? Well, if you haven't been on the bike in 3 days and you're up 5 pounds in the morning, you had a sensitivity to something. Your food log can help you start to pinpoint it.
Right.
It's not as complicated as people think it is. You just have to have a little bit of documentation that you can really make some executive decisions with. Just be careful stripping an entire food group because you get labeled in a textbook.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the milk, they broke it down. It was the casein protein in milk.
And that makes
that
sense.
was my
Yep.
one thing. They
Had to
said you
get
got to
rid of
stay
it.
away from this.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's certain protein powders that are casein
Has it in
protein.
it,
I'm like,
yep.
whoa,
Can't do
yeah,
it.
I got to get away from that.
Yep.
So
But there's alternatives, which is great.
Yeah.
Like my wife, Michaela, she has sensitivities to lactose. So there's lactose-free milk. Doesn't mean she can't drink milk. She
Yeah.
just does the lactose-free because she has a sensitivity to lactose, but she's not lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Again, you put a big label on it, you can strip a lot of nutrients out of a particular group.
yeah, I just thought it was interesting that my allergy or sensitivity might have just been I get the farts.
Sure.
Where people think, oh, you're allergic to milk, you go into full anaphylactic
Right.
response. No, but I don't want anything that causes me to inflame, right?
Right. No.
I mean,
Well, and
if
you
we can
bring up-
avoid those things.
But you bring up a good point, how it just gets embellished.
Yeah.
What's sensitivity? What is intolerance? That's why I don't like labels.
Yeah.
Find how your body responds to everything you do and everything you eat
Yeah.
across the board. And blood work definitely helps you, like you said, because you can at least start on why something is or isn't out of range. Can you imagine if all of a sudden you come back and you're low in calcium and you didn't realize it was because you took milk completely out as a category and it's a great source of calcium? Sure, you can get it from green leafy vegetables and other things like that, but if nobody told you that and you didn't, what you lost over here, you didn't make up with another food group, all of a sudden you're out of range. See the domino effect of that?
Sure. And a lot of times, you know, you and I have talked about this on my blood panels. If you're low in certain things, it's because your body's stealing it because it didn't get this food. It'll kind of rob Peter to pay Paul.
Well, you bring up, in my opinion, one of the most amazing things about the human body. This thing is very absolute. If it runs out of gas, it's sitting on the side of the track. If this thing runs out of oil, it's grenaded. We run out of fuel, we can still keep functioning.
Yeah, we'll start to eat ourselves.
That's exactly right. But like you said, your body will, like, all of a sudden, instead of creating energy this way, it's got the ability to spin, and we're designed incredibly well to overcome and adapt. This doesn't. It's absolute. When it's done, which makes us very dangerous to ourselves. Because we talked on another show about not getting enough sleep. Well, the body still functions even though it's sleep deprived. We may be enduring a tremendous amount of stress, personally, professionally, financially, athletically, but it'll still keep firing until it simply says, I've got a label, adrenal fatigue, Epstein-Barr. Once we get labeled, then it's interesting how these characteristics take on a totally different weight, and then we start paying attention. Well, now you're in rehab versus prehab. You're in reaction versus proactive. I mean, whatever cliche you want to put on it. Like you're saying, blood panel, get it done consistently. But here's the frustrating part. Do something with the info.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to get the info and go, oh, wow, I'm still out of range as I was 6 months ago. You know, it's not going to get any better.
And also, to that point, is have somebody that understands what those numbers mean. And that's not necessarily your doctor.
Right.
Have someone like yourself who understands sports physiology go through that with you and figure out why.
Absolutely.
Because the doctor
always.
will say, well, you're low on this. Here, let me give you more pills.
That's right.
That's
and
what
are
they
the
do.
pills made out of? Synthetic.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes so frightening. You know, again, I've said this in previous shows, you know, I'm not a hellfire and brimstone guy. I don't live in a glass house. I don't buy organics. If you looked at the majority of the food, I would say it's probably 10% of our total, because we can't find it. We're in Orlando. There's not very many places that sell it. The perish rate is very high, you know, and so I don't want the listeners to think, oh, he only eats organic, must be nice. No, I don't. I eat the perimeter of the store, and I understand there might be a wax on my apples, and there might be some gas in my grapes that I buy, but I got to eat something.
I got to eat something.
You know, and I'm not a good farmer.
Yeah.
I'm in Florida. I have bad dirt.
Yeah.
I would starve. I could probably grow one thing. Weeds.
That's
about it.
Those are tough to eat. Well,
not very nutritious.
There's a lot more information if you guys want to get over to CompleteRacingSolutions.com. Rock Pain Health, over there, a ton of information for free. You can also step up to their membership levels
Always happy to
and
help.
get very, very involved. So thank you as always.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We're going to have more MPH videos coming.